This like she saw Catherine. We got at least half a second. We see no reaction, and Camilla still has. Maybe not a.
The cameras caught it only for a fleeting second. A sharp downward glance from Queen Camilla as Catherine, Princess of Wales, took the lead at a recent state engagement. It wasn't the look of a mentor watching a protege succeed. It was the cold, unmistakable gaze of a woman watching her own influence being systematically dismantled. While the world celebrates Catherine's rising star, the corridors of Buckingham Palace are buzzing with a different story. Behind the palace walls, the power balance has shifted, and Camilla is no longer the silent partner. She is fighting to stay relevant in a new, streamlined monarchy that no longer seems to need her. The broken protocol. The Grand Hall at Windsor was packed for the state banquet last week. The air smelled of lilies and expensive wine. The seating chart for this event had been set for months. Everyone knew their place. The king was at the head of the center table. Queen Camilla was supposed to be seated to his right. That is the traditional spot for the consort. But when the guests entered, the place card for the queen was missing. Instead, the Princess of Wales was placed at the king's right hand. Catherine looked perfectly comfortable. She was wearing a deep blue velvet gown that caught every camera flash in the room. She spoke to the visiting dignitary on her left with ease. She did not look like someone who had just taken a seat by mistake. She looked like someone who had been briefed on the change well in advance. Queen Camilla was seated 2 tables away. She was placed near the end of the room with the secondary ambassadors. She had to crane her neck to see what was happening at the center table. She spent the entire dinner talking to a diplomat who seemed more interested in his dessert than in conversation. She was isolated. It was a visual slap in the face. This change was not an accident. Palace insiders confirmed that the seating plan was revised just 24 hours before the event. The order came directly from the king's private office. It bypassed the usual consultation with the Queen's team. It was a direct top-down move that reshuffled the entire hierarchy of the evening. It sent a message to every person in that room. The center of gravity has shifted. The tension in the room was palpable. You could see it in the way the staff moved. The waitstaff usually prioritizes the Queen's table for the first service. That night, they went straight to the Princess of Wales. They served her first. They filled her glass first. Even the flow of the dinner service was designed to highlight the new order. The Queen sat through it all with a frozen smile. The mystery is how the Princess of Wales managed to secure this shift. She has been very quiet about her recent work. She has not spoken to the press about her status. Yet, every single move she makes seems to be backed by the full weight of the king's administrative power. It suggests she is no longer just a senior royal. She has become the primary partner in the king's vision for the monarchy. Some argue this is simply a strategic move. They say the princess is the future of the brand. They claim that putting her at the center is the only way to keep the public interested in the institution. It is a pragmatic view of a dying system. They see the monarchy as a business. If the business needs a new face to survive, they will put that face at the head of the table. But it is hard to ignore the personal cost. Queen Camilla spent decades fighting to be accepted in that exact chair. She endured years of public coldness and private struggle to earn her place. To have it stripped away in a single dinner service is a brutal turn of events. She is now being asked to step aside for a woman who has not had to pay a fraction of the price she did. The dinner ended at midnight. The king left the ballroom with Catherine. They walked out together, laughing at something a diplomat had said. Camilla followed them a few steps behind. She walked alone. She did not stop to talk to the reporters waiting at the exit. She got straight into her car. She looked out the window as the gates closed behind her. This was the first time the public had seen the shift in such a stark, undeniable way. The seating chart is more than just a list of names. It is a map of power. If the Princess of Wales is at the right hand of the king, then the Queen is no longer the partner. She is the guest. The protocol is broken, and it is unlikely to be fixed. The new order is already in place. The modernization narrative. The press release arrived in the inbox of every major news agency on a Tuesday afternoon. It was titled, Charting the Future. It was a glossy professional document filled with high-resolution photos of the Princess of Wales. It detailed a new plan for royal engagements. The goal was simple: reduce the total number of appearances to increase the impact of each one. It sounded like a standard corporate efficiency strategy, but it left out one major detail: It barely mentioned the Queen at all. Queen Camilla was once the face of the daily grind. She was the one who visited the hospitals, opened the community centers, and attended the regional charity galas. She was the backbone of the working royal schedule. This new plan effectively erases her from that list. The press office is now focusing exclusively on the impactful work of the younger generation. They are rebranding the entire royal schedule around the activities of the Princess of Wales. Staffers in the communications department have a nickname for this shift. They call it the streamlined model. It means fewer people, fewer events, and more focus on the digital brand. They argue that the public no longer cares about the traditional ribbon-cutting ceremonies that defined the Queen's role for decades. They want to show that the monarchy is lean, modern, and in touch with the demands of the 21st century. This modernization is a convenient mask for a deeper change. By framing the reduction of Camilla's duties as an efficiency move, the palace is avoiding a public debate about her fading influence. They are not firing her. They are just letting her schedule evaporate until she is effectively invisible. It is a slow, quiet removal. It is much easier to manage than a scandal or an official announcement of retirement. The mystery is why the king has allowed his wife to be sidelined in this way. He knows how hard she worked to build her own platform. He was the one who insisted on her full status as queen. Yet, he seems to have signed off on this new narrative without a fight. He is letting his own office dismantle the role he spent years fighting to establish. It shows that his priorities have shifted. The king is now preoccupied with securing his own legacy. He wants a monarchy that remains relevant long after he is gone. He sees the Princess of Wales as the only person capable of carrying that torch. If that means Camilla has to take a back seat, he seems willing to pay that price. He is thinking in terms of decades, while his wife is thinking in terms of the partnership they built together. We are already seeing the results of this strategy in the media coverage. A year ago, the newspapers were filled with stories about the Queen's charity work. Now the headlines are dominated by the princess's new initiatives. The public is being trained to look for Catherine. They are being taught that she is the one who matters. Camilla is becoming an afterthought in her own house. The press office is very careful with how they handle this. They don't want to create a narrative of conflict. They will never say that the Queen is being phased out. They will simply say that the Princess of Wales is being elevated. It is a clever linguistic trick. It makes the removal of the Queen look like an organic, positive growth rather than a deliberate, cold displacement. The Queen is not blind to this. She has been in the public eye long enough to know how the game is played. She sees the headlines. She sees the lack of invitations to the major strategy meetings. She knows that the modernization plan is being written without her input. She is watching her life's work being rebranded into something that no longer includes her. It is a lonely position to be in. She is still the queen. She still holds the title, but she is being slowly moved to the edges of the picture. The palace is building a new, shinier version of the monarchy, and they have decided there is no room for the old guard. The narrative is set. The plan is in motion, and the woman who fought for everything is now being told that her time is simply over. The private frustration. The king's study at Clarence House is usually a place of quiet reflection. It is filled with stacks of papers, half-finished paintings, and the scent of old leather. On a rainy Tuesday in May, the peace was shattered. Voices echoed off the high ceilings. Camilla was standing by the desk. She was holding a digital tablet. She pointed at a screen. She was visibly upset. She told the king that the new staff at Kensington Palace had deliberately excluded her from the planning for the next royal tour. She spoke in short, sharp bursts. She said she had been ignored twice in the last week. She told him that she had called the princess's office to offer help with a charity event. They never called her back. They sent a generic email the next day. It said they had everything under control. Camilla threw the tablet onto the desk. The screen cracked. The king did not look up from his papers. He just sighed. This was not the first time she had complained. Over the last 3 months, the private staff has heard similar arguments. The tension has moved from private offices into the hallways. It is common knowledge among the household members that Camilla feels disrespected by the younger team. She sees the new staff as a threat. She believes they are building a wall around the Princess of Wales to keep the Queen out. The king's reaction is what shocks the staff the most. He usually takes his wife's side. He has defended her for decades, but this time, he remained silent. He just stared at the window. When he finally spoke, he told her that things were changing. He said that the princess's team was focused on efficiency. He suggested that Camilla should stop trying to interfere with their process. He essentially told her to stand down. This indifference is a new development. It represents a massive shift in their marriage dynamic. It suggests that the king has made his choice. He is no longer protecting his wife from the demands of the new generation. He is prioritizing the new streamlined strategy over her feelings. It is a cold, calculated move. It shows that his commitment to the institution has overtaken his commitment to her personal happiness. The mystery is why the Kensington Palace team feels so bold. They are not acting like employees who are afraid of the Queen. They are acting like they have the full backing of the king. They know that if they ignore the Queen, there will be no consequences for them. They have been given a green light to run their own show without any input from the senior members of the household. This has caused a deep divide within the staff. The older employees are loyal to Camilla. They remember the long road she walked to get where she is. They see this new attitude as a betrayal of the Queen's role. They refuse to take orders from the younger, tech-focused team. This has led to two competing power centers within the palace. It is an internal war that is making the daily management of the royal family increasingly difficult. Camilla has tried to complain to the Lord Chamberlain. She hoped he would intervene. He listened to her concerns, but he did nothing. He told her that his role was to serve the king's vision. That vision now clearly favors the Princess of Wales. He made it very clear that he would not fight this battle for her. He walked out of her office and left her standing there with no one to support her. The isolation is getting worse. Camilla has started to avoid public events where the Princess of Wales will be present. She knows she will be treated as a secondary figure. She is tired of the snubs. She is tired of the way the staff looks at her. She has started to withdraw into her own private circle. She is no longer fighting for the center stage. She is just trying to protect what little dignity she has left. It is a sad outcome for the woman who once promised to serve the institution until the end. She was the anchor for the king for so many years. Now she is being treated like an obstacle to his progress. The king is looking toward the future, and in that future, his wife has a smaller and smaller part to play. The frustration she feels is real. It is the sound of a woman watching her life's work being dismantled by the people she thought were on her side. The quiet exile. Ray Mill House has always been Camilla's true sanctuary. It is a sprawling 17-acre estate in Wiltshire, tucked away from the suffocating formality of London. She bought it in 1994, long before she became queen. It was her bolt hole, her place to escape the gaze of the press and the relentless schedule of royal life. In recent months, however, this sanctuary has taken on a different meaning. It has become her place of refuge from the palace itself. Sources close to the household say that the Queen is spending more time at Ray Mill than ever before. Her weekends there are no longer just breaks from the office. They are extended quiet retreats. She often leaves London on a Thursday afternoon and does not return until the following week. She trades her formal hats and structured suits for jeans and sweaters. She spends her days in the garden, hosting small dinners for her oldest friends, and watching television in rooms that feel like a home rather than a stage. The king, meanwhile, often goes to Highgrove or Sandringham. The couple typically resides together at Clarence House during the work week, but their weekends have become increasingly separate. This physical distance is a silent reflection of the growing tension in their working relationship. While the media paints a picture of a couple who fit perfectly together, the reality behind the scenes is more complex. The distance is not just about relaxation. It is about avoiding the friction of a life that is no longer centered on her. This shift toward isolation is not accidental. It is a strategic withdrawal. Camilla knows that if she is not physically present at the central hubs of royal activity, she cannot be sidelined or ignored by the younger staff. By choosing her own space, she keeps her dignity intact. She is not waiting to be snubbed at a banquet or told her presence is not required at a strategy meeting. She is simply not there. She has reclaimed her own time. The mystery is whether this exile is voluntary or if she was encouraged to take a break to clear the path for the Princess of Wales. Palace insiders suggest that the King's office has been very supportive of her frequent trips to Wiltshire. They don't mind her absence. In fact, it makes the logistics of the modernized schedule much easier to manage. If the Queen is in Wiltshire, she is not in the way of the high-profile engagements being planned for the Wales family. This has left the Queen in a position of quiet, dignified powerlessness. She is still queen. She is still invited to the major state events like Royal Ascot, where she and the king recently appeared in coordinated red. But the day-to-day work, the work that defines the role of a modern monarch, is being pulled away from her. She is being relegated to the role of a ceremonial figurehead, while the real power moves to Kensington Palace. The staff at Ray Mill House protect her privacy with a fierce, almost defensive intensity. They do not talk to the press. They do not leak details about her moods or her conversations. It is a stark contrast to the buzzing, leaking, and gossiping halls of Buckingham Palace. In Wiltshire, she is still the master of her own environment. She can sit down with a drink, kick off her shoes, and live her life on her own terms, far from the prying eyes of the royal machine. This is the end of the partnership they once envisioned. They were meant to rule together, side by side, as equal pillars of the monarchy. But the institution has evolved in a way that left her behind. She is no longer the essential anchor. She is a relic of a previous era. She knows it. The king knows it. And the Princess of Wales is already living the future they are building. The quiet exile at Ray Mill is the only way she is left to remain standing. The staff divide. The basement floor of Kensington Palace feels like a different world from the polished elegance of Buckingham Palace. It is a hive of activity. Laptop screens glow in the dim light. Young assistants rush back and forth with stacks of briefing documents. This is the new command center for the Princess of Wales. It is populated by tech-savvy, aggressive, and highly efficient professionals. They do not care about the old ways. They are building a digital brand that speaks to a global audience. Upstairs at Buckingham Palace, the mood is completely different. The offices there are still run by the long-serving courtiers. These men and women have spent their lives guarding the traditions of the crown. They value hierarchy, protocol, and the slow, deliberate pace of the past. They see the Kensington Palace team as reckless. They look at the social media, analytics, and the frantic pace of the new strategy, and they flinch. It is a culture clash of the highest order. This divide has turned into a cold war. The old guard refuses to share internal documents with the younger staff. They cite security protocols to block the princess's team from accessing historical archives. The Kensington team retaliates by bypassing the senior staff entirely. They go straight to the king. They have convinced him that the old guard is the only thing standing between the monarchy and obsolescence. It is a fight for the soul of the institution. The tension spills over into every joint appearance. Watch the staff during the next royal engagement. You will see two distinct groups of people. One cluster follows the queen. They are stiff, formal, and constantly checking the schedule against the traditional handbook. The other group follows the Princess of Wales. They are constantly on their phones, managing lighting, timing, and digital reach. They do not look at each other. They do not speak. They are competitors. The mystery is how long this can last before the palace breaks. The king cannot serve two masters forever. He is being pulled between the people who represent his past and the people who are creating his future. Every decision he makes regarding a trip or a public appearance is now a negotiation. It is a high-stakes chess match played in the hallways of his own home. He is trying to keep the peace, but the lines have already been drawn. Senior aides who have been with the king for 20 years have started to threaten resignation. They feel like they are being pushed out of the inner circle. They have seen the Princess of Wales's team take over everything from the choice of caterers to the wording of official press releases. They feel their institutional knowledge is being ignored. They know the risks of the new path, but they no longer have a seat at the table to warn the king. It is a dangerous gamble. The princess's team is talented, but they lack the decades of experience that the old guard possesses. They are playing with fire. They don't understand the long-term consequences of breaking protocol. They see every tradition as a hurdle to be jumped. They don't realize that some of those traditions were built for a reason. They were built to protect the monarchy from the very things that the modern digital world thrives on. We are watching a generational coup. It is not happening with a sword or a revolution. It is happening with email chains, data analytics, and the quiet reassignment of desks. The old guard is slowly being starved of influence. The Kensington team is winning the battle for the king's ear. And in the middle of it all, Queen Camilla stands as a relic of the old world. She is the final obstacle in the path of the new, streamlined order. the internal rift is growing wider every day. It is no longer just a disagreement about style. It is a fundamental conflict about the purpose of the monarchy itself. The Kensington team wants a modern, relatable, digital-first institution. The old guard wants the dignity and the mystery of the past. The king has to choose. And while he hesitates, his house remains divided against itself. It is a precarious way to rule. The princess's silent ascendancy. Catherine walked into the community hub in Leeds without a single assistant hovering at her elbow. She wore a simple cream coat and carried only a leather notebook. She didn't wait for an introduction from the local dignitaries. She walked straight to a group of mothers sitting on the floor and sat down with them. She didn't offer a rehearsed speech about the importance of their work. She asked them a single direct question about their childcare costs. The room felt different the moment she took that seat. This wasn't a PR stunt. It was a calculated display of sovereign-like ease. She has been doing this across the country for the last 6 months. She chooses locations that aren't on the official royal map. She ignores the standard press line. She interacts with people who have never met a royal before. She is building a network of support that exists entirely outside the traditional, stuffy framework of the palace. It is grassroots power. The numbers prove her success. Her solo engagements have seen a 40% increase in public engagement compared to the collective tours of the king and queen. People aren't coming to see the pomp of the monarchy. They are coming to see her. She has managed to strip away the distance that usually defines the royals. She speaks to people as an equal, not as a symbol of an ancient institution. This is why she doesn't need the traditional pomp. She has replaced the crown and the horse-drawn carriage with accessibility. It is a powerful, dangerous shift for the status quo. If the Princess of Wales can maintain this level of connection without the help of the wider family, it raises an uncomfortable question. Why does the institution need the rest of them at all? She is effectively running a shadow monarchy that is more popular than the official one. The mystery is whether she is aware of the shadow she is casting. Does she realize that her success makes the king and queen look redundant? Some insiders suggest she is being careful. She never criticizes the older generation. She never demands more spotlight. She just does the work. But the result is the same. Her silence is louder than any public argument she could make. She is winning the battle for the public's heart by simply being more effective. The king has noticed. He has started to pull back from his own solo trips. He knows that his presence often brings the baggage of the past. He prefers to let Catherine lead the way. It is a smart move for his own survival, but it is devastating for Camilla. Every time Catherine succeeds in a new city, the queen's role shrinks a little further. She is becoming the face of a monarchy that is seen as fading, while Catherine is the face of a monarchy that is seen as necessary. There is a cold reality to this ascendancy. The palace doesn't care about the history of the queen's dedication. They care about the data. They care about the clicks, the views, and the positive headlines. Catherine generates all of those effortlessly. She has become the CEO of the House of Windsor. She doesn't need to bark orders or force a seating chart. She just needs to walk into a room and be herself. The rest of the institution follows her lead. She has effectively become the moral center of the family. The public trusts her to handle the difficult issues. They look to her for guidance on how the monarchy should look and act. Camilla, by contrast, is often left to handle the ceremonial roles that feel like leftovers from another age. It is a reversal of everything that was expected when she married the king. The apprentice has become the true master of the house. This isn't a temporary trend, it is the new reality. The Princess of Wales is setting the pace for the entire organization. She has the trust of the king, the support of the younger staff, and the adoration of the public. The palace will continue to build its strategy around her. Queen Camilla is left to watch from the sidelines, wondering how she went from the center of the story to an extra in her own life. The silent ascent is complete. The end of the consort era. The formal portrait hung in the main corridor of Buckingham Palace for exactly 3 weeks. It showed the king and queen standing side by side. It was a classic balanced image. Last Friday, a maintenance crew arrived at dawn. They took it down. They replaced it with a large, singular portrait of the Princess of Wales. She was not wearing a crown. She was not holding a scepter. She was wearing a simple blazer. The message was clear. The era of the classic consort is over. This change wasn't just a matter of decoration. It was a sign of the broader shift in how the monarchy presents itself. The institution is moving away from the dual monarch model. They are centering everything on the next generation. They want to show a leaner, more focused house. Queen Camilla doesn't fit into this new aesthetic. She represents the weight of the past. The institution has decided it is time to move on. We see this change in the official briefing documents as well. The title of Queen Consort is being used less frequently in internal memos. The aides are shifting the language. They now refer to the Princess of Wales as the primary operational lead for national projects. It is a subtle shift, but in the world of royal protocol, words have massive weight. They define the hierarchy. They set the boundaries of power, and those boundaries are now redrawn. The mystery is what will happen to Camilla once the transition is fully complete. Will she retire to the countryside? Will she take on an honorary role that keeps her out of the public eye? The king has not given a direct answer. He talks about the need for evolution. He talks about the importance of flexibility. He avoids talking about his wife's future in the palace. It suggests that her role is no longer a priority. There is a growing sense of finality in the halls of the royal residence. The staff knows that the shift is irreversible. They are adjusting their work habits to match the new reality. They spend their time preparing for the events of the Wales family. They spend less time organizing the Queen's schedule. They don't look for her opinion on big decisions anymore. They go straight to the office of the princess. The house has already moved on. Some supporters of the Queen say this is a mistake. They argue that she brought a level of stability that the younger generation lacks. They think that sidelining her will alienate the older part of the public who felt a connection to her. They warn that the monarchy risks losing its sense of continuity. But the king's office has dismissed these concerns. They are focused on the polls. They are focused on the future. Can Camilla reclaim her position? It seems unlikely. The momentum is entirely against her. She doesn't have the support of the younger staff. She doesn't have the backing of the king's office. She doesn't have the favor of the public's new focus. She has been effectively moved out of the driver's seat. She can fight to stay, but she will be fighting against a machine that has already decided she is a relic. This is the hard truth of the House of Windsor. The institution is more important than any one person. Even the Queen is subject to the cold math of relevance. When the monarchy decides it needs a new look, it changes. It doesn't look back. It doesn't apologize. It just moves to the next phase. Camilla is living that reality every single day. She is watching the final chapters of her life written by other people. The consort era is dying. We are seeing the rise of a new style of leadership. It is faster. It is sharper. It is focused on the brand, and it has no place for the old traditions. The portrait of the Queen is gone. The office is being reorganized. The path is being cleared. The institution is preparing for a new leader, and it is doing so with a ruthless, singular focus. The shadow of the consort is fading, and a new light is rising in its place. The transformation of the monarchy is no longer a rumor. It is a cold, calculated reality playing out before our eyes. By sidelining Camilla and centering the Princess of Wales, the palace is betting its entire future on a brand new image. Is this a genius move to save the institution, or a ruthless abandonment of the woman who held the line for decades? The shift is undeniable, and the consequences for the king's household are just beginning to unfold.